All right, let's talk about Australia. When you picture it, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Yeah, sure, the beautiful beaches, the opera house, but also probably that nagging little thought that pretty much everything there wants to kill you. It's a reputation that movies and TV have been building up for decades. But is it actually true? And look, that's a totally fair question, and it's exactly what we're going to get into. Because, on the surface, the evidence looks absolutely terrifying. I mean, the case for deadly Australia is pretty compelling when you just glance at the numbers. Out of the 25 most venomous snakes on the entire planet, something like 20 of them are just hanging out in Australia. And it's a similar story with spiders. We're talking nearly half of all the world's dangerous species are found right there. It really does feel like the whole continent is stacking the deck against you, doesn't it? And oh, it doesn't stop there. Not by a long shot. You've got sharks lurking in the south, these massive crocodiles up north, and the water is just filled with venomous things like jellyfish and stingrays. They even have a bird, the cassowary, that's literally called the world's most dangerous bird. It's a genuine rogues gallery of deadly animals. So sounds like a pretty scary place to live, right?
Well, this is where the whole narrative just takes a complete U-turn. Because while the potential for danger is incredibly high, the actual, real-world data, it paints a picture that is, frankly, completely different from the myth we all know.
Let's just start with this number. Over a 15-year span, official studies found that a little over 500 people died from animal encounters. Now, of course, any death is a tragedy. But for a country of over 25 million people, a place known as the deadliest continent on Earth, 500 deaths in 15 years? That's not quite the apocalypse we've been led to believe.
And this is where it gets really wild. The real danger? It's not what you think. Forget about fangs and venom for just a second. The #1 cause of animal-related deaths in Australia is horses and cattle, mostly from falls and other injuries. And #2? Kangaroos. As you can see, the creatures we're all terrified of, like snakes and sharks, they're way down the list.
So here's the key thing to understand. It's how these animals are dangerous that matters. The kangaroo isn't #1 because it's out there boxing people on the street. No, it gets the title of most dangerous wild animal almost entirely because of car accidents. It's a completely different kind of threat than the one we imagine.
And here it is. This might be the single most powerful fact that just completely dismantles the myth. Despite being home to some of the world's most infamous and feared spiders, the number of people who have died from their bites since effective antivenom became available is 0. That's right, not a single one. Modern medicine has basically neutralized one of the country's most iconic threats.
So why? Why is there this massive gap between what we think and what's real? Well, a huge part of the answer is just simple geography. A staggering 85% of Australia's entire population lives packed into coastal areas, mostly around the big cities. That means most of that huge, intimidating continent, where all those deadly creatures live, is almost completely empty of people.
And that really leads us to the big takeaway here. The true measure of risk isn't just about how deadly a snake's venom is or how sharp a shark's teeth are. It all comes down to the simple, statistical probability of you ever actually running into one. And for most Australians, that probability is incredibly low. So that leaves us with one last kind of fascinating question. We've seen the stats. We know the reality. If our fear of Australia isn't really about the animals themselves, then what's it actually about? Maybe it has more to do with the power of a really good story than the actual threat of a bad bite.